Coming up, UNC has a plan for students returning this spring. We'll tell you everything you need to know.
We're less than a week away from the election, and many college students and underrepresented groups are casting votes for the first time.
And Halloween in Chapel Hill will be looking a little different this year. We've got some tips on how you can still celebrate even during a pandemic.
From the UNC Hussman School of Journalism and Media, connecting Carolina's campus and community, this is Carolina Week.
Welcome to this spooky edition of Carolina Week. I'm Gray Hurley.
And I'm Molly Cummings. Our top story may not be about goblins or ghouls, but it does feature a scary prospect for UNC students: uncertainty about the spring semester. Joining us with the latest on what we can expect when we come back from winter break is reporter Jacob Messer. Jacob?
Molly, the university released a long list of policies for next semester which impact housing and instruction method. Let's start with housing. Carolina Housing announced that all students living on campus will have their own room, but they will pay the rate of a double room. Students with current residential contracts do not need to reapply for housing, but those who do not currently live on campus will have access to the remaining spaces based on special considerations. Some other requirements include masking up whenever inside a residence hall, unless inside your own room with the door closed. No in-room visitation will be allowed, and only community residents will be allowed in the building. Elevator capacity in buildings that have them will be 4, and while water fountains will not be available for use, water bottle refill stations will. Move-in slots are available by appointment only from January 13th to 17th. All of this, of course, depends on re-entry testing for COVID-19, a process the university says every enrolled student must complete. Once they do, faculty will have a variety of instruction modes to choose from. The in-person options will meet in physical classrooms at the assigned dates and times at least once per week. Some virtual instruction will take place. There will also be synchronous remote options, meeting online at specific dates and times. The final two are either mostly or entirely asynchronous and will not be given at a specific date or time, but will be delivered online. First-year students and classes that especially benefit from in-person instruction will take priority, and all classes with more than 35 people will be online. Reporting in Chapel Hill, I'm Jacob Messer, Carolina Week.
Voting is already underway for the general election, and many Americans are casting their ballots for the very first time. Combined with millennials, these new voters make up 37% of all voters. We spoke with some UNC students who are first-time voters.
Having the right to vote is really a privilege. And so being able to exercise that is something that's really important to me. And I know that voting won't fix everything overnight. It's just a small step. It's vote and support grassroots organizers and things of that nature and local efforts on the ground.
This was my first time actually voting urgently. Just knowing the political climate and everything going on, just not even in America, but just all around the world.
We all have very strong opinions. So it's important that we vote because that could shift it one way or the other. And it could really, really go two different ways.
In addition to first-time voters, the Latinx community is showing up to vote in larger numbers than ever before. Reporter Patsy Montesinos has the story.
Through rain or sunshine, nonpartisan organizations are finding creative ways to encourage Latinx folks to vote. DACA volunteer Victoria Navarro says that although she can't vote, being present at the polls is her way of participating in the election.
For me, it's almost like being able to participate and be part of the process. I know at this point, those of us with DACA are pretty much at limbo with what comes next.
Navarro came to the United States from Mexico when she was 3 years old. And while she waits for an official decision about her status as a dreamer, she's helping people with the voting process.
I want to at least know that I'm showing up and participating, whether that's in direct conversations with family or friends who can vote, about them understanding what's at stake.
Latinx early voter turnout more than doubled this year, and in North Carolina, that number continues to climb. Because North Carolina is a purple state, Latinx voters could swing this election one way or the other. Volunteer Jeanette Pulido says it's vital now more than ever for her community to show up.
I think it's really important to go for Latinos to go out and vote because we need to speak up. We need our voices to be heard.
Nearly 500,000 young Latinx voters younger than 30 have voted in the U.S., and about 65% of them are voting for the first time. Because of this, Pulido says Latinx people are still facing challenges when casting their ballot.
I feel like language barrier has been a big issue. Some people don't know English, and also a lot of people just feel scared. This is their first time doing it. They've never done anything like this before, and they just feel like they don't fit in with the people around them.
That's why Navarro brings her daughter to these types of events, to expose her to the voting process at a young age.
I want her to grow up like knowing how important and how privileged she is to have the right to vote, and never really take that as for granted, because obviously my entire family and I, would wish we could vote.
While still keeping the hope of one day casting her own vote.
I think that when the day comes that I am able to vote, I am going to be very proud to do that for this country.
In Siler City, I'm Patsy Montesinos reporting.
North Carolina is a battleground state, and President Trump is continuing to rally here. President Trump's latest visit took him to Lumberton, where he pledged his support for the Lumbee Indian tribe. He said he would support a bill in the Senate to give the tribe full federal recognition and access to millions of dollars in community benefits. Researchers say substance abuse is a big issue among Native American tribes in North Carolina. Reporter Aaron Jenkins has the story of a Cherokee tribe member who's hoping to turn things around.
As a teenager, Caleb McCoy never imagined the path his life would take.
I was 11 years old, prescribed a narcotic, and soon after, with everything going on in my life, it was, shortly thereafter, I was addicted.
Fast forward 23 years, multiple stays in a local jail, and a few overdoses later, McCoy wanted something more for himself and his community on the reservation of the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. And so, Res Hope was born.
And I started having a vision of wanting to give back to the community that I have helped destroy.
Res Hope, which stands for Healing Our People Every Day, is a grassroots organization. As a nonprofit, they fight against substance abuse issues on the reservation.
My lips were turning blue, my eyelids, my ears, I wasn't breathing.
EBCI Chief Richard Sneed says people like McCoy and his wife Caitlin are crucial to slowing the number of overdose deaths.
They've been deep into addiction, and now they're deep into recovery. And certainly having gone through it, it gives a completely different perspective. It's imperative that we have groups that are kind of like on a peer level.
Oh, no, just us, Ben.
Res Hope serves the community by providing meals for those in need, speaking in local high schools, and lending a listening ear. Moving forward, they will be focused on renovating their men's recovery home.
So we'd have more room to have groups and stuff.
Res Hope advocates for meeting people where they're at. This includes their harm reduction program. There are several syringe boxes set out throughout the Cherokee community where users can exchange old needles for new ones. This also includes distributing Narcan kits, which Res Hope says saves lives.
You had to be brought back with 6 Narcans, right? Two Narcans. And
last year was the deadliest year that we had. And so this year, since COVID hit until now, we're tracking 20 to 30% higher in most communities.
Since the early 2000s, there have been more than 130 overdose deaths among EBCI members, 13% of all deaths in the tribe. But the real solution to this?
All hands on deck. It takes everybody doing your part.
And it's one thing for just the recovery community to come together. Yeah, that's great. We got to have that. But it's a whole nother thing when you start piecing out all these different people. We're all affected by it. And
while there is still more work to be done, Steve knows Res Hope is saving the tribe.
They are really the unsung heroes of this battle for the soul of our nation, as they're living proof, literally, that addiction can be overcome.
All right, God, let's go. Let's do this.
In Cherokee, I'm Aaron Jenkins reporting.
Why it's important for everybody in the community, that's part of the solution, is because everybody's affected by it.
Connect Carolina now allows students to list their preferred pronouns. Students can list their pronouns and gender identity by visiting the Pronoun and Gender Identity page in the Personal Information section on the Connect Carolina homepage. Students can pick from a selection of pronouns and gender identities or opt to enter their own. For now, this information is listed solely on Connect Carolina, but plans to make it available on class rosters through advertising and in other limited locations will be made in the coming months.
Even though there's no official homecoming game this year, the homecoming committee is still planning a week of events. You can enjoy homecoming at home on Instagram and Zoom. Starting Monday, the week kicked off with some of your favorite tailgate food recipes, followed by yoga and mindfulness. Then, a day in the life with UNC students virtually. And to end the week, a versus battle featuring K97.5's Brian Dawson.
Is supposed to be a way for students to still have Carolina spirit while they're at home. But we also didn't want to kind of add to the stress of students. We wanted them to be fun events since we can't particularly have a homecoming week in person.
Now here to talk about sports is Carolina Week sports anchor Kennedy Bird. Kennedy, what horrors are the Heels inflicting on opponents this week?
Coming off of their first loss of the season, the men's soccer team traveled to Clemson Tuesday night to face off against the Clemson Tigers for the second time this season. After a scoreless first half, the Tar Heels quickly fell behind to Clemson as the Tigers scored 2 goals within less than a minute of each other. But Carolina was quick to strike back. At 65 minutes, Key White curved the ball into the net to cut Clemson's lead in half. Then again, just 6 minutes later, Lucas Del Rosario taps the ball in off a beautiful assist by Giovanni Montes de Oca. At 78 minutes, Clemson scores again, but the Tar Heels answer back when Santiago Hierro shoots it in, sending the game into overtime. However, after 2 hard-fought overtimes, the match ends in a tie. Following the big win over NC State, the football team will travel to Charlottesville this Saturday to play a spooky matchup against UVA. Here's what Mac and several of the players had to say before the contest.
We've got a 4-game stretch here, NC State being one of those 4 games where the other team's going to have a lot of excitement. Are we going to match that excitement and enthusiasm? And that's a question. Are we going to play well on at 8 o'clock on Saturday night when we didn't at Florida State? Those are questions we have to answer about our team.
As far as their defense, I'm pretty sure we're going to get their best shot. They did real good last year. They held us to a few points, but I feel like there's something that's going to be the same this weekend. They'll try their best.
Sam back there who can dime anybody, and just having those two running the ball, I mean, it's a great feeling because they push us as much as we push them, and just they talk to us, pass pro, they're with us, running the ball. It's a beautiful thing to see.
Even when you're a 2-time defending national champion, you can get better. The Tar Heels field hockey team is hoping the addition of a new volunteer coach will help them do that. Ava Smolinars reports.
Alumni Lauren Moyer decided to return to UNC to help this year's squad to compete for an ACC championship. Moyer, who graduated in 2017, is grateful to be back to help her alma mater and train with the team.
My last season was 2016, so now 4 full years since I've put on a Carolina jersey, and it doesn't feel that way at all, but it's crazy how fast it goes. So field hockey is like an outlet, and it should be fun.
Moyer is a member of the USA national team. She had to figure out her next step as COVID-19 created a lot of uncertainty. The national team had to pause its training due to the pandemic. Moyer then decided to reach out to her former coach.
So I was a little concerned about being able to train and maintain some sort of level of field hockey fitness and training in my life. So I reached out to coach and I was like, hey, I don't know what the deal is. If you would have me, I think it would be really fun to come back, and, a few back and forths. And yeah, it's worked out so perfectly with just everything because, we still haven't trained. So I'm one of the few that have been able to actually keep a stick in my hand, which was my goal.
The Tar Heels have one more home game before they focus their attention on the ACC tournament, which will be held this year at Duke. Moyer hopes to help the team achieve that and even bigger goals. I'm Ava Smolinars reporting.
That's all from sports. Gray, Molly, back to you.
Thanks, Kennedy. You may be too old to trick or treat, but you aren't too old to take advantage of Halloween deals. Some restaurants are giving out free treats or have special deals this Halloween. If you are in costume Saturday, you can swing by Insomnia for a free cookie. You can also use that costume to get a free Krispy Kreme donut on Halloween. McDonald's is selling their $1 Halloween treats pack of coupons, and Wendy's has their $1 Boo Book, which includes 5 coupons for free Junior Frosties. Keep an eye out for buy one, get one free entry codes on Chipotle's social media from October 29th through the 31st. And if you dress up as your favorite food, follow DoorDash and post a picture of your costume between now and Halloween. And I know I'm really going to miss celebrating Halloween on Franklin Street.
Me too. It's going to be a different kind of night for students and the town of Chapel Hill as well. Reporter Jasmine Bunch has more on Halloween 2020.
Halloween in Chapel Hill usually means thousands of costumed students flooding Franklin Street. But this year, Halloween in Chapel Hill will look a lot different.
This fall, health experts are urging us to find safer ways to celebrate Halloween.
Due to COVID-19, the town of Chapel Hill canceled the annual Halloween tradition.
So Halloween has always been a big thing that I've always looked forward to every year. So I'm a little sad that this year it's going to be a lot different.
Although Franklin Street Halloween isn't an organized event, the town usually closes the street to through traffic, and Chapel Hill PD manages the crowd for safety. Many people walk to Franklin to show off their costumes, but this year, they're encouraging residents to showcase their costumes virtually.
I kind of saw it coming, like you saw the writing on the wall, as it were, but it still doesn't really prevent you from being disappointed when they actually, said, okay, we're gonna put the brakes on this year. So it was definitely a bit of a bummer, but I'm sure there'll still be something.
Although you won't be able to strut your costume on Franklin Street this year, you can still get in the spooky spirit by attending virtual events or having a safe and small gathering with friends at home. Wishing you a safe and happy Halloween in Chapel Hill, Jasmine Bunch, Carolina Week.
I remember my first Halloween on Franklin Street like it was yesterday, and it will definitely be sad not doing it this year.
I can definitely agree. I was planning to be Bob Ross this year, which is very disappointing. Well, that does it for this edition of Carolina Week. Thanks for watching.